Now, it's the big half-term and bank holiday getaway. However, plans are being scuppered for thousands due to British Airways flight cancellations and security officer strikes at Heathrow.
The roads are also chocker, with the RAC predicting the busiest late May bank holiday since 2019. Travellers at the port of Dover are facing delays after a French computer outage earlier on. So to bring us up to speed, pardon the pun, we're joined now by travel and aviation expert Sally Gethin. So the roads, the railways, chaos. Are we expecting chaos this bank holiday?
Well, it could be chaos, definitely, depending on how many people take to the road. So 19 million leisure trips by car are predicted for over the bank holiday weekend. The advice is to, stagger those trips if you can. But, the weather is fantastic, so everybody wants that getaway. At the port of Dover yesterday, cars were being held up, but the coaches were getting through. If you recall, at Easter, there were long 15-hour delays with coaches. But the port of Dover has put a lot of contingency measures in place to deal with that. And with the trains, well, that's yet to unfold, because we've had a brief hiatus this weekend of no strikes, but from next week, ASLEF, the train drivers, are going to go on strike, and they're going to be joined by the RMT later in the week. And this will hit next Saturday. The FA Cup, if you recall, is taking place then. So there'll be a lot of disruption after this weekend on the transport network. And
I suppose the only consolation, if you're trying to get away and your plane's cancelled at Heathrow, is that the weather's so good here, isn't it? You don't really need to jet off to Spain or Portugal or anywhere
but not if you've booked a flight or you want to go away. What's happening at Heathrow and with BA?
So BA has had to cancel hundreds of flights due to an IT outage. I've lost count of the IT outages at BA that I've covered in my work. And so it's almost a seasonal event that BA has an IT glitch, and they kind of hunker down and they don't really give out much information. We're all left guessing where that's occurring. But it's occurring at check-in and also departures. And on top of that, Unite the Union, which provides security workers at Heathrow, they have at least 2,000 workers there. They're about to, some of them are coming to the end of a 3-day strike, which finishes at the end of today. But also, Unite has got a new mandate from 600 more security workers, and they're promising more action, disruption over the summer, because they're complaining about Heathrow's dismissive attitude, saying the bosses get like 6-figure sums there, and they're well below even their counterparts at other London airports in terms of pay.
Now, in terms of aeroplanes, we saw on the news yesterday the extraordinary pictures of somebody opening the door on a South Korean flight just before the plane landed. Fortunately, it seems that nobody was hurt, but that person's been arrested.
You and I couldn't believe that they could even open the door.
How does that happen, Sally? Because if you go on the train anywhere, you can't open the door until the train comes to a close. How is it possible, technically, for people to open a door while the plane's still flying?
I just want to put a note of reassurance out there for everybody. Normally, in normal circumstances, you cannot open a plane door in flight. Not when it's coming into land, even, as happened yesterday, or even at cruising altitude. At cruising altitude, the physics absolutely prevent it anyway, because it's a pressurised cabin. It's like if you tried to open that door in flight, cruising altitude, even if you could get it open, it's like pushing against 6 cars on the other side. That won't happen. It's an Airbus A321 that was affected in this instance, and it's a very reliable plane. Occasionally, there are these instances of a passenger losing it, right, and then going for that door. It's usually due to a severe mental health episode, because obviously that's not normal activity. It does happen. There's been another incident in the United States in March where it involved violence against a flight attendant as well, but it's extremely rare. The challenge for the aerospace industry that designs planes, for example, they make them as robust as possible, put all the safety checks in. But, there's always, as time goes on, some new human factor that challenges that. For example, with the cockpit doors, they used to be open in the past, and now they're secured. So there will be more scrutiny on this, but it's possible it was a technical issue, an aircraft maintenance issue. It certainly is not standard for any airplane door to, well, unless you're, it's a little general aviation plane, a two-seater or something, and you're going to parachute out of it. But for a commercial airline, that's not.
Well, you've reassured me there, because this was our conversation over dinner last night. How did that door get open?
I just don't understand why the pilot hasn't got the control and only releases the control when the plane comes to a standstill. And how a passenger has any say over this law.
I suppose they'd say, should you need to in an emergency, but that's different. In an emergency, should the plane come to land, you've got an emergency exit, they put the chute, and obviously you've got to get out of the plane.
Yeah,
in that
instant point.
So I get that.
Point, yeah.
At that point, Sally, you're quite right. At that point, not when you're in air. But Sally, can we thank you for bringing us up to speed of what's going on and reassuring us about plane doors?
We'll still